Also, the first day, one, I need to know about the air defense mechanisms which were used in and around that area. One, that. And the second is our attack out there in just 23 minutes, how we managed to get our targets on the first day.
You're talking with respect specific to?
When we targeted the terror bases, it was finished, the attack was finished in 23 days. Then when they responded, our air defense mechanisms, how we stopped both.
So, it's like this, that the Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan clash, Russian-Ukraine clash, and even to some extent the Israeli current conflict going on, taught us about the huge capability that drones have. And, we realized that Pakistan, by virtue of its back-end support from Turkey and maybe a northern adversary as well, had a plethora of drones. And we also knew that, in order to take on an effective air defense integrated system that we have, like the Army and the Air Force are integrated in this case, he would have to saturate us. So if you see his concept of employment, he would first send in low altitude, cheaper drones in large numbers to saturate your radars. And they would also force you to open up your radars. So I think it's very important that the Army looked at, not emitting, so that we didn't give out our positions. Because the moment you gave out your emitter position, his next line of drones would come to hit the radar.
So what do you do then? You
switch it on at the appropriate time.
Okay.
So you switch it on when you realize that the target is within your gun range. You switch on the radar intermittently, slew your guns and engage the target. But if you continuously emit, that's what the drone is wanting you to do. Saturate your screen and then bring in someone from the rear, an armed drone, and then hit your radar as a kamikaze drone. So I think that the training that we did, actually we anticipated this, and you won't believe that about maybe on the 26th, 27th and 28th, we did a simulation exercise at the behest of our army chief in the border areas, where we simulated drone attacks on the weapon system.
So sir, April 26th, 27th, you carried out an exercise of a drone attack from Pakistan.
Yeah, it was not from the border, but it was internal, on the border.
Okay.
But we actually wanted our gunners and our operators to actually hone their skill and see how do you detect. So we started off at 5:30 in the morning, if maybe 26 was the first day. So we started 5:30 in the morning, where we had multiple drones coming in to train our people. So that, because if you have a saturation raid, and how do you react, and how do you not switch on your radar till as late as possible, and how does this information go laterally to people? How does the Army Air Defense, once it gets this information, proliferate this information to the infantry man who's there, or to the RT man who's there, so that everybody realizes there is a drone, and if he has a capability and the signals, and if he has a capability to engage that drone, how can he engage it?
So continuing with what Ajit asked, India was getting ready with its war machinery by end of April. We knew that there's going to be some kind of a proactive measure which India is going to take.
So, it's like this, that the air defense is a defensive measure. The air defense is not an offensive. The air defense is something where you protect your own airspace. So, by a trickle method, we gradually built up our air defense right along our western borders. I think so. That's how we actually, got the troops familiar with terrain, because we initially deployed not on a VAVP centric mission that we normally do.
What does that mean?
So what happens is that normally all air defense resources, because ours is a big border, we have about 3,500 border with Pakistan. So you can't have air defense right through. So you have vulnerable points, vulnerable areas which are pre-identified, which are allocated air defense resources. Like if you have an ammunition dump, or you have an airfield, or you have a logistic base, or you have even some population centers, or you have a temple like the Golden Temple. So you predetermine where you want to put these. Now some of these could be at the border, some of these could be 50 kilometers, some of them could be in the rear areas of the tactical battle area. So what we did initially is we pushed up as much guns as far forward as possible, because we realized that the efficacy of the guns is the most important against drones.
Okay. No, but look, for Pakistan, it's a thin strip of land. So for them, the depth is not there all that much. We have a greater depth. But yet now you know that the drones also have a longer range. So for us, will we have to go as far back as Delhi now, Haryana, Delhi, because how far are we? So the drone range comes there also, right? So in case of a Sindoor plus situation, if it happens, will we have to have guns along nearby too?
No, so it is like this that the air defense role has been divided between the Army, Navy, and Air Force. I mean, to look after India's airspace, and while the Air Force is the primary respondent, but each of us. So the Army looks after the airspace in the rear areas in the TBA, tactical battle area. So we look after the entire TBA. The Air Force looks after rear air defense. So major refineries, major cities like Delhi, they would all come under the gambit of the Air Force air defense. So assuming that you have an effective identification system in place, like a good radar system in place, which is capable of detecting these drones, and you have a reasonably good engagement in a couple of tiers of defense. So you have a gun system on the first tire, maybe at 3 kilometers, then you got something at 10 kilometers, and then you have a leaker which comes through to be very unfortunate. But assuming that you have multiple tires, it is not sequential, but the best weapon takes on the drone. So I don't think there is fear to areas in depth. I think the air defense of the country between the Air Force and us proved that in the 2-3 days of conflict, in spite of the huge barrage of drones that came pan-western borders, we have not really had civil casualties.
But they did use not just cheap drones, they used Barak, Shapar and the others too, right? So how did we take those down?
So, it is like this that...
And who did?
Yeah, so every weapon system, whether it's a gun or a missile, a V-SHORAD, a shoulder-fired missile, or the Akash indigenous weapon system, or the MR SAM, they all have a certain altitude of operation. So, like the guns have an altitude of between 1.8 to 2 kilometers. And then you have the V-SHORAD, the next level, go up to 3.5 kilometers. So, then you have the Akash, which can go up to 18 kilometers. The MR SAM, which goes up to 14 kilometers. The S400 goes up to 18 kilometers. So depending on the target which was being picked up and the cost, I mean, you realize if a plane is coming, then it's the S400. If it's an AVAX, it's an S400. If it's a smaller drone like a UCAV, then an S400 would be too expensive to use. So then you use the MR SAM or use the Akash, and it still comes closer, then you use the gun. And so the altitude of ingress decides the best weapon system. And in an automated system like the Akashti that we have currently, it's a fantastic system. It is still in the process of rolling out, but it has a system of between the ISCCS of the Air Force and the Akashti of the Army. It ensures an effective resource allocation and an effective weapon allocation.
So Akash Tir is now battle proven.
So sir, now this Akash Tir and ISCCS combined together, like the controls of an S400 can be directed by an army officer, and similarly if an army Akash has to be fired at some target.
No, that's the Osaka, which is on top,
Okay.
and there's a reporter radar below.
Okay.
But on the left hand side is your Akash in some form. That's basically a 3D TCR radar as well.
Okay.
So now sir, you can your person can ask a S400 to engage a target with integration of the command and control systems, and they can ask you to engage a target using an army Akash. Is that so?
Yeah. So as part of the CNR, the S400s is completely ICCS controlled. Okay, sir. Because the cost is so high, and it provides more of an area air defense. So that is predominantly with the Air Force. This time we had the Akash and all the weapons below Akash under the control of the Joint Air Defense Control Center of the Army Air Defense. Yeah, so that's where the Akash Tir is based. That's the heart of the Akash Tir system. This is the ISCCS of the